Hey guys, it's Jessica. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my personal life. I know on Instagram and even on my YouTube, I posted a boyfriend of mine that I had. His name was Zayshawn Campbell, and we broke up. A lot of people were wondering why we broke up, what happened. So I just thought I'd finally share with you guys. I know on my Instagram page I mentioned a little bit of what happened. I've been getting a lot of direct messages, people asking me if the online dating scammer named Wilson Jackson was the guy who scammed me, if he's the guy that, I was dating. And no, you guys, that is not him. The guy who scammed me is named Zayshawn Stanley Campbell. He was my boyfriend for a few months, and he did scam me.
So his name is Zayshawn Stanley Campbell, but as you can see here, he uses so many different names and spells his name differently as a way to hide his identity.
Anyhow, today I thought I'd give you guys a little background on the story with me and Zayshawn, since I know a lot of you had questions and I never really explained what happened. I just posted pictures of this guy that I was so happy to be with, and I was posting like Instagram stories, and then all of a sudden he was gone. So a little background, the way I met Zayshawn was through, at the time, my friend JC the barber. Me and him work together with Chris Brown. JC was so persistent that I meet his friend. He kept saying that, he had this friend named Zayshawn who was in real estate development, that he owned like a chain of gyms in Texas. He had 2 daughters, real good guy, wasn't into anything illegal, that he, was into stocks, he owned some McDonald's. He had all these great things to say about Zayshawn, and he really thought that this would be someone that was a good match for me. At the time, JC treated me like his little sister. He usually never wanted to introduce me to anyone. Like, he never suggested I meet any of his clients or any of his friends. But all of a sudden, Zayshawn was like the perfect guy for me. And whenever JC was hanging out with Zayshawn, like if they were in Vegas gambling, JC would FaceTime me with Zay there and like try to get us to talk. Or like if I was working with JC on set, he would randomly FaceTime Zayshawn, and somehow we would communicate. And even though Zayshawn sounded like a great guy, I really wasn't interested. Like, I just never felt like any of JC's friends would be my type, or my type of lifestyle. So I really wasn't interested. But then one day, Chris Brown had an event, and I was gonna meet up with JC before the event, and he decided to invite Zayshawn without telling me. So that day I met Zayshawn, ended up talking to him. We ended up hitting it off. All my friends, thought he was cute. They all really liked him, and everybody said I should go for it. And that night, I was vibing with him, and I did get along with him. I thought he was cute, so I decided to go for it. So a few days after meeting Zayshawn, we went on a date with JC and his girlfriend, and I'll never forget that day. He showed up, and he had bought me a brand new iPhone 10, our first date. And he was like, "Here, I bought myself one. I wanted to get you one too. So you need the new iPhone." And I thought that was really sweet of him, but now that I look back, that was just weird. So after meeting Zayshawn, we were inseparable. He wanted to see me every day. We hung out a few times more before he asked me to be his girlfriend, and then he started saying that he loved me, that he had never met anyone like me, and that he was falling in love with me. And he would just say and do everything to try to make me feel comfortable. But keep in mind, guys, he also studied me on Instagram, on social media, before meeting me. Anyways, you guys, it turned out that Zayshawn Stanley Campbell is a scammer. He's a relationship scammer. He's a con artist. He's a liar. He's a sociopath. He's a psychopath. And I don't know how I came across a human like this. So So I don't really know where to start because so much happened in such a short amount of time. The relationship moved really fast. He really came off like he wanted to like settle down. He was ready for a girlfriend. He didn't go out. He didn't like to party, none of that. He was very like mature. He had 2 daughters that he had a lot of custody of. He used to have his daughters a lot. When I met him, he owned a home in Hidden Hills. He also owned a home in Calabasas, or so he said he owned it, but he was living at a home in Hidden Hills, one in Calabasas. He was driving around a Lamborghini. He had a Mercedes. He had a BMW that JC was driving. He had a truck, a Prius his brother was driving. His house wasn't furnished, the house in Hidden Hills. When he first took me over, he said he was just moving in. It was getting renovated, and it was a little weird because he never got furniture. His house was pretty like empty. And so Zayshawn portrayed himself to be this successful, young, mature guy. He said that he was into real estate investment and development, and that he owned a chain of gyms, or he was like an investor in a chain of gyms in Texas. He said that he started off as an employee in Texas. Well, he went out there for his ex-wife, whom he has 2 kids with, and that when he went out there, he just decided to leave LA, didn't have anything, and he ended up working at this gym chain. And that while he worked there, that his baby mom, his wife at the time, she got into like a huge accident with the semi-truck, and that since he was trying to get his law degree at the time, he ended up like defending the case, and he got like, I don't know, this is a long story, a bunch of lies, but that he got like a ton of money from it. So that's how he says he invested into this Texas gym chain. He says that, you know, he had got so much money from the accident, or they had got so much money from the accident, that the owner of the gym asked him to invest. So he invested, and the gym started doing really good, and so that's how he had that. And then he also said that his real black mother, he said he was half Lebanese and half black, and that his black mother had abandoned him as a baby, and that he was adopted by a rich white Jewish family, and that's why he was like, he grew up like whitewashed, couldn't fit in or whatnot, and that his mom came around, you know, later on and took him back, and that he kind of like resented his mom because, you know, now all his family just uses him for his success. And he would say his brother doesn't have a job, and that he pays all his bills, and that his mom and his sister, all they do is like ask him for money. He would always show me like their text messages of them asking for money, how all of his friends would just like leech off of him and ask for money. He would show me texts all the time of all of this. But he also said that this rich white Jewish family left him and his stepbrother, who was really their son, a few McDonald's, but that he had to go to like some training or something to be able to be a franchise owner, and that he hadn't done it yet, but like that he had the McDonald's through his family. I don't know, a ton of lies. Like I said, it was just story after story. Trying to think of what else he said, because I would always ask him like, how do you not have to go to work every day? And how are you making all this money to afford all this? Because he was just spending, I mean, if you add up all his bills, it was a lot of money. And I've dated successful people to know that like money just doesn't come easy. You have to work hard for it. And he wasn't going to work like that every day. Anyways, you guys, everything about Zayshawn was a lie. He didn't own a chain of gyms. He doesn't own any McDonald's. He wasn't adopted. It was just all a lie, and part of this story to get me to feel like sympathy and compassion for him. So while I was dating Zayshawn, he moved really fast. And I never move fast, you guys. I move slow in relationships. And I asked my friend Sarah, and I asked a few of my friends at the time, like, this is what he's saying, and this is what's happening. Like, what do you think? And I'm like a very cautious person for the most part. But for the first time in my life, everyone said, just enjoy the ride. Like, You know, some people do meet their soulmate and move fast. Not everything has to be a long process. So I made up in my mind I was just gonna go with the flow and go with it. And I did. So things progressed a little faster than what they normally would. After I started dating Zayshawn, he invited me to go to brunch one day and had a beautiful day planned out for us. We went horseback riding and had brunch in Malibu. And while we were having brunch, he came out saying that his Hodgkin lymphoma stage 4 cancer had returned. I guess so. He said that he had been in remission the last 2 years. But he said that prior to that, you know, his cancer was so bad. He had stage 4 cancer. He had done chemo 4 times and he wasn't supposed to live. He said that he underwent these natural holistic treatments and went to Asia for some sort of treatment. And then that, you know, once he was better, that he traveled the world for a bit and just like meditated and all this, I don't know. It was weird. Apparently whatever he did worked, and now he had been in remission for the past 2 years. But his cancer, he just found out that his cancer was back and it was aggressive. And that, you know, he understands if I don't want to be with him, if I want to leave him, he knows it's a lot for me. He told me that his cancer was discovered by Kaiser, but that now he's undergoing treatments with Dr. Keith Black at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Beverly Hills. Apparently his brother's wife works for that doctor and had introduced him, and he's one of the best. I was devastated. I didn't really know what to do. I talked to some of my friends and they all said, Jessica, you know, you're one of the strongest people I know. Maybe he needs you in his life. Maybe you came into his life to like help him with this. You know, you can't break up with him. You should stay with him. And I decided to stay with him. He was lying about cancer, you guys. He doesn't have cancer. He's perfectly fine. Right now, he's living his best life. He lied. He did that as a way to, you know, get in my heart. He knew it was a soft spot for me. I had never met anybody that had cancer. So I took it really hard. And I feel like he just took advantage of that. Zayshawn did everything he could to make me believe he had cancer. He would have fake conversations with his doctor in front of me. He would show me fake text messages from his doctor every morning, going around the house, talking like a crazy person. There was no doctor on the other line. Zayshawn went to the extent of like randomly sending me pictures of like him getting IV or just the most random things. He would share his location with me and show me that he was at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and it was just a way to like prove to me that he was sick. But you guys, he wasn't sick. He wasn't fucking sick. He even went to the extent of like just pretending to be sick. He had these like little bald spot. He had this bald spot he was getting, and now that I look back, it's probably like alopecia from stress. And he was getting these spots on his body, but you know, at the time, I believed it was all from cancer. I never met anybody who had cancer. You know, now that I've like read on it, he's so full of shit. It was all from like stress. And he was just pretending. And, you know, he had taken me around all his family, and all his family went along with the lie, and they all pretended he had cancer. You guys, I confirmed he's not a cancer patient. I became so obsessed with doing research on cancer and holistic treatments. I even like set him up to have a conversation with one of my friends who's like into the whole holistic lifestyle. And it's crazy because he wasn't that interested, and it seemed weird to me, but he was doing everything to prove he was sick. So it didn't really make sense. And he wasn't taking his cancer seriously. He was eating like crap, staying up late. Just none of it made sense. And every time I would confront him about it, he would get like defensive and have something to say and say, I don't know how he's feeling, and just all this stuff. So Zayshawn eventually started to act more and more sick. And then he started to act depressed and tell me, you know, he's so sorry for bringing me into this and involving me, that he just doesn't know like how long he's gonna have to live. Every week he would say he met with his doctor and that things are getting worse, and So Zayshawn ended up saying that, you know, he knows how much I care about him and that he appreciates me being there for him, and he feels so bad because his cancer is getting worse. So one night he took me to dinner and he told me that when he died, he wanted to leave me everything. That he didn't want to leave it to his family because his family doesn't know how to handle money and they would all fight and his money would just go to shit. So instead, he wanted to leave me the money. He wanted me to start a charity. He even went to the extent of asking me if he could set up a trust account for Ashton. I told him absolutely not. He doesn't have to worry about Ashton. Ashton has his father who helps financially, and he never has to worry about that. So he told me that he already had a lawyer that was drawing up the paperwork for me and that he wanted to talk to me about it first and, you know, let me know that he was gonna leave everything for me. I thought it was crazy. I said no, he should leave it for his family. I told him absolutely not. You guys, it was so crazy. As I'm telling you guys the story, I just can't believe I was involved in that. It's like, so Zayshawn also made me feel so bad for him by sharing all of his like sad, traumatic childhood stories. Everything was just so much and so intense now that I look back. I mean, even at the moment, my friends were like, oh my God, what? That happened to him as a kid? Oh my God, what? He has cancer? Oh my God, what? Like, things just kept coming from left to right. It was so much to take in. It was so overwhelming. I mean, no one would understand unless you were in my shoes. And I know only my close friends get it because I shared so much with them at the time as things were going on. But it was a lot. Zayshawn told me that his mom abandoned him when he was like a newborn because she was a young mom and she couldn't take care of him, and that his dad was shot like when he was born, or I think when he was in the womb. So he also said that when his mom took him back into her custody, his real mom, that his uncle used to molest him, and that I guess one time it was so bad and he like showed me stitches he had in his butt. I don't know if any of that's true, but it was always to like make me feel bad. Like, I'm a mom. I could never imagine my poor Ashton having that type of childhood, you know, having his mom abandon him and then being adopted, and the adopted brother didn't like him, his mom being molested by his uncle, and then now all his like family just leeching off of him. And then, you know, he has cancer, and then the baby mom, this, that. It was just so much. He said absolutely everything you could think of to just make me feel bad, make me feel sorry for him, and not let me break up with him. Like, how could I break up with someone who just told me they have cancer? Someone that I've already been dating, and now you tell me you have cancer? Like, I'm not that type of person. I'm not gonna leave someone. It was definitely a way to just like trap me and keep me in it. So keep in mind, you guys, Zayshawn told me he had cancer after he knew how much money I had in my IRA account. So after he told me he had cancer, he started saying things like, you know, if anything happens to him, he really cares about me. He knows what a hardworking single mom I am, and that he wants to help and make sure that I'm set up. And that's when he started to try to convince me to invest my IRA money to like double it. So he started saying that he wanted to help me grow my 401k account, that it was sitting in a conservative account, and that, you know, since he was so good at stocks and bonds, and like I said, he had paperwork to prove it, that he wanted to help me grow financially. You guys, so once I sent him like a snapshot of what investment accounts my IRA was in, he, out of nowhere one day, we were on our way to visit my parents, he stopped at a jewelry store in downtown LA, and he had 3 beautiful, huge diamond rings in front of me and said for me to choose, and that he wanted to marry me, that he was going to marry me by, you know, the end of the year or next year. And in front of me, he put a deposit on the ring. I don't even know what all that was about. He probably owed the jeweler money and was BSing me. He said that he didn't know how long he had to live and that he wanted to spend whatever time he had here on earth with me, and that he wanted for us to get married. He wanted to make me as happy as he could and just be so in love and just have a love so pure that in his past relationships there was always, some sort of like negativity or drama, and that he just wanted our love to be pure and just enjoy this time on earth. I know it sounds crazy, but at the time it was just so real. Like how he pretended to be sick, the conversations with his doctor, like you guys just have no idea. He kept asking me to move in and saying he wanted to marry me, and I don't know, you guys, I guess I believed him. But I became very suspicious about what Zayshawn did for a living. He just did too well. It didn't make any sense. He didn't go to work every day. I started snooping. I'd go through everything in his house. I was going through all his paperwork, all his mail, and a lot of things didn't make sense, but then when I would confront him, he would have an excuse for everything, or he'd have some sort of reasoning. So all he did was make trips to the bank to supposedly meet his banker. I always insisted on going with him to the bank, and he would always find an excuse for me not to go. Same thing with his doctor's appointments. He'd always, say that I don't go with him to the doctor to his appointments, but then whenever I would volunteer to go or volunteer to be there for him, he would find an excuse. So one day I confronted him and told him, like, I need to know what you're doing. Like, none of this makes sense. People are asking me, like, how does your boyfriend do so well? I want to know exactly what you're doing. Like, lay it all out for me. And so one day we went to dinner and he showed me all his like stocks, how much, his investment paperwork in the gyms, what percentage he had. He broke down everything for me. But you guys, it was all a lie. All those financial documents were all a lie. And the way I found this out is, one of the girls he dated before, she had a laptop that they shared together, and on the laptop he would make all kinds of fake financial documents. So he's making fake financial documents to show his brother, who was jobless, was making over $1 million. So he fooled me. So I even went to the extent of asking him, like, how did you first become successful? Like, how did you first make money? Tell me about your first time. And that's when he went into saying about like how when he first moved to Texas for his ex-wife, he went with nothing and he got this job at a gym. So Zayshawn said that he invested in the gym once, and then once he got the money from the car accident settlement, he said that the owner of the gym gave him 50% of the Texas Family Fitness gym chain, and that now they were in the process of selling the gym. Zayshawn went to the extent of, I'm talking every morning, you guys, he would wake up and have a team meeting with his employees from the gym. He would go around the house, walk outside in the yard, walking around the pool, talking and arguing with these employees. You guys, he has no gym, he has no employees. He would pass out in front of me and he never let me call the ambulance because he said he didn't want to die in the hospital, and that if he goes, they're just going to give him medicine and it's just going to get worse. He hates hospitals. That's what happened the last time. He also said that he was really good at stocks and bonds. So the first time he made a little money, he got into stocks and bonds and Bitcoin, and then his money just started growing. So, all of it made sense, and he's really, really smart, and he's very knowledgeable. So he's able to talk his way through things. So while I was with Zayshawn, he did spend some money on me. He bought me a Rolex. He randomly went shopping for me a few times. Out of nowhere, he said that he wanted to pay my credit card bills. Keep in mind, I didn't have a lot of credit card bills. I probably only had $4,000 worth of bills, and that was because I was in a huge child custody case with my son's father. And so he was so persistent about paying my credit card bills. So one day he said, take out your computer, let's pay your credit cards. So I took out my computer, and he only paid $1,000 on one credit card. It was like the weirdest thing, because if you're gonna say you're gonna pay my credit card bills, just pay them. Like, if you have all of this money, pay my bills. And so I had told him, like, I don't need you to pay my bills. Like, it's all good. Like, I don't need you to pay anything for me. But he wanted to. So then a few days later, he says, hey, so who do you bank with? And I was like, oh, Chase. He's like, let's go to the bank and pay your credit cards. Like, I want to pay him cash. So weird, guys. I don't know, like, how all of this just wasn't clicking at the time. So we go into Chase, and we go and sit down with the teller lady, and he, like, pays my credit card cash. So when we went into the bank, Zayshawn introduced himself to the bank lady as my fiance. And I remember I looked at him like, what are you talking about? And I laughed it off. But now that I look back, he was saying fiance so that she could trust him and speak openly. And then I remember after he paid the cash for, you know, my credit, to pay off my credit card, he started asking her if, you know, if I had good credit and what credit cards do I qualify for, and just started getting really nosy with my financial information. And I remember she was going to answer his question and said, are you okay with me talking in front of him? And I said yes. So then that conversation somehow ended up talking about 401k. And that's when he, you know, got all the information about how much I had in my 401k. So the day that we were at the bank, he even went to his car and brought back, you know, fake financial bank statements of his showing like how much money he had in the bank. And it was like $30 million. And I remember the girl at the bank was like, oh my God, like, are you an NFL player? Like, what do you do? Like, she couldn't believe like how much money he had. And he's just very smooth, and he can pretend to be whoever, that she even believed him. And that day he brought out his bank statements to like discuss, I don't even remember what, with the girl, but then he started asking like, what's a better credit card I would qualify for? And he was trying to get me this, like, one of the top credit cards. And I was like, oh no, I don't qualify for that. I don't need that. Like, don't even bother. Like, don't even ask. And I remember he suggested that he can put so much on that credit card or spend that much or something like that so that I could qualify for the credit card. And I remember in my head, I was like, hell no. But those are like little things that he would suggest. So after that day, Zayshawn tried so hard to convince me to make an investment, to like pull out my money, put it into this investment, my money would double, and then I can put it towards a condo, because that was my goal. I wanted to get a condo for Ashton and I. And every day he just kept like watering the seed. He would like pull out his investments and show me like how good he was doing and how like dumb I am for not, you know, taking out my money and like being a little more risky with it, and how my money was just sitting in like a really conservative account. And he was right. My money was in a very conservative account. So, and to make a long story short, you guys, I ended up pulling out some money from my 401k and doing this investment. It was a lot of money. And so the plan was that I was supposed to pull my money out of my IRA, invest it, and then make some money off of it. And I only had 30 days to put it back in my IRA before I got penalized. So on the day that I wrote him out a check, he handed me one of his blank checks. It was signed, and he's like, as soon as you're ready to, you know, take your money back, just write yourself out a check and you can pull the money out. So, you know, I felt comfortable. I went ahead and did it. And then shortly after I left his house that day, after giving him the check, I realized that he immediately cashed my check. And I got such a bad gut feeling. I called him right away and I said, hey, I don't want to do this investment. I want to pull out. I want my money back. I'm just not a risk taker. I don't want to do it. And he just went off on me saying I play games. I'm so undecisive that, you know, it's gonna look, if I cancel the check, that it's gonna look so bad because he already had all that money going through for my Range Rover car, and just went on and on saying that it's messing with his bank stuff, that to just wait for the check to clear, and then that he'll give me the money, or that then I could write the check. So I waited for the check to clear. I kept like checking, following up, and then as soon as it cleared, I asked him for the money, and he just had every excuse in the book. So I took the initiative to fill out the blank check of his that he had given me, and I took it to the bank and deposited it, and the next thing you know, the check bounced. So when it bounced, it didn't make any sense. I confronted him. He just had excuse after excuse after excuse. And a guy like this, all they do is lie, and they have you in circles. It's the craziest thing. And all of their lies make sense. He's a really smart guy. So he can have you going in circles with all these like lies and excuses, and it kind of makes sense. I don't know. It was just a lot, you guys. And so he wanted me to get this Range Rover so badly. He kept, you know, insisting that I need a new car and that he really wanted to help me. So he, you know, surprised me one day, took me into Range Rover. We were on our way to like dinner or somewhere, and he stopped at Range Rover. He already had an idea of like what kind of car I wanted. We took a look at a few cars. We talked to the lady, got ideas. I didn't want the car. I was like, I don't need a new car. Like, I don't know. He just kept pushing it on me. And so on the first day that we went to go see Range Rovers, I had to go to work that night. I worked on set with Chris Brown, and we used to share each other's location. And I realized that he was back at Range Rover. So I called him and I'm like, what are you doing at Range Rover again? And he went back to try to like negotiate my car deal, and I don't know, it was just the weirdest thing. And at the time it was weird. I don't know why I ignored those signs. Everything just weird. But so he's like, because I'm trying to get you your car. I'm trying to negotiate the best deal. Like, I know that you had this on your vision board. I know you really want the car. You know, I want to help you get it. Like, I'm financially capable and able to help you get this car. And, you know, I know, like, you deserve it. So he would just say the right things. And I really thought that this guy wanted to help me. Like, he did portray himself to do so well. I didn't ask for anything. He kept trying to give, and I don't know, it seemed sincere. It seemed real. So anyways, we end up going back to Range Rover. He has my whole deal worked out. You know, I really wanted this car, and I did want to get rid of my BMW. So when we were there that day, he had already worked out the deal. He didn't want me to turn in my Range Rover. He said that we were going to take my Range Rover to CarMax, and that he would just pay if I was upside down or whatever. He didn't want to trade it in that day. Stupidest thing I could have ever done. But so I told Zayshawn, if you want me to get a new car so bad, then why don't you put the car under your name? Because I'm not going to put the car under my name. And he said he couldn't do it because he was too financially tied up. He, you know, had his 2 Malibu homes. He was supposedly in the middle of opening up a Quench bar. And then he had that whole deal pending with the Texas gym. So he told me, you know, I'm reliable. I'll put the down payment on the car and I'm going to be financially responsible for it. But the way he got me was he put a $25,000 down payment on my Range Rover. And he was even going to put more. And even though I kept going back and forth and I tried to back out several times, when we were finally sitting in the finance department and he actually put the $25,000 down, I felt a little more secure. So I did go through with the sale of the Range Rover. But a few days later, I get a call from Range Rover saying that his wire transfer didn't go through. So then I had Range Rover speak to him, and supposedly he was going to do the wire transfer again, and they just kept going back and forth. I kept getting calls from Range Rover. So every week I kept getting a call from Range Rover saying that this wire transfer wasn't going through, and I kept confronting him, and I started stressing out. So I was really getting nervous. I just wanted to turn the car in. So he kept showing me like fake paperwork or like fake things on his phone saying that the wire transfer went through, and he kept saying it's their fault, it's on their end, like it's not my fault, look, it's going through on my end. Keep in mind, you guys, he knows how to make fake financial documents, fake statements. He's like a pro at it. This is how he gets into these, you know, $1 million homes. He has fake documents that show fake assets, fake bank statements, fake stocks and bonds. And that's also how he fooled me. He would literally leave financial documents around the house, like with his stocks showing how much he has, financial bank statements showing how much he has in the bank. He would just do so many different things to make me feel secure with like who he was. After my 401k check cleared with him, he only made one car payment. So shortly after I made the investment, we had a trip planned to Vegas. And at this time, the check for my 401k that I had given him hadn't cleared yet. So we were waiting for it to clear. And I remember we went to Vegas and I got a call from Range Rover saying that the wire transfer hadn't gone through. And they said that if I didn't pay the down payment on the car, I was gonna have to turn it in the next day. And I just remember losing it, crying. I was so stressed out. I had all these terrible like feelings towards him. Like my gut was just telling me like, oh my God, this guy is so full of shit. But you know, I cared about him. So part of you like wants to believe like everything's gonna be okay. Like, you know, let me believe him. But on that trip, I just lost it. And he gambled a lot. And he had won $30,000 on that trip. So I made him use the money he won and pay the down payment. So he went to a few different chases, sent it to my account, because you can only do so much at an ATM. I made him send me money, so he sent me a good, I don't know, it was like $20,000 that he owed for the down payment, and he came through. So I felt relieved. I didn't feel like he was trying to screw me. You know, he actually paid the money. So another thing, when we went on this trip to Vegas, and we got to the hotel, Zayshawn pretended he forgot his credit card and he needed to put like an authorization on the room. So he asked me to put it on my credit card, but he had his ID. He didn't forget his ID so he could gamble and all that. But he forgot his credit card and he put me in the position to where I had to put it on my credit card. I had to put the authorization, and I was so upset and so uncomfortable. Make a long story short, you guys, he never paid me back for that trip. I also had to put the flights to get back home on my credit card since he didn't have his credit card. And this is the type of stuff those relationship scammers do. They'll put you in the most uncomfortable positions to where you have to pay. He did it to me several times, and now I look back and I'm like, wow. They'll put you in the most uncomfortable, awkward situations to where they'll have you pay for things. So I posted a picture of Zayshawn, and when I posted the picture of him, I had a few girls come forth saying that Zayshawn had scammed them and their entire family. There was one young girl named Maria. She was way younger than me. She had dated Zayshawn for a little over a year and lived with him. So he was really close to her family and had gained their trust. I guess Zayshawn said that because of his cancer, he was having issues with, you know, his business and keeping up with it, and that he needed this much money for the gym. And so the dad ended up loaning him like a part of his retirement. That's how much he trusted Zayshawn, and that's what a good guy he seems. And Zayshawn screwed the family, never paid the dad back, and on top of that, he ended up using the young girl's like credit. They lived together, and he convinced her to put the apartment under his name. And then he tricked her into thinking that he switched it back into his name, but all along it was under his name. And when I was dating him, he had this apartment across the street from Staples Center that belonged to this girl. It was under her name. He was just squatting there, not paying rent. And so was his family. Anyhow, this is one girl. He left her in so much debt. And you know, once he screwed her, and he became distant with her. And I ended up meeting him shortly after. And when I met him, he told me he hadn't been in a relationship in like 2 years, which was a lie. He had just, like, he wasn't even out of the relationship with the other girl. So this girl had reached out to me and said, you know, I don't care that you're dating him. We just broke up. He owes my family like this much money. All I want him to do is pay my dad. And when I confronted him, he had every excuse. Again, he brought out his little fake messages, and he was just such a liar, you guys. And at the same time, and so another girl had also messaged me, and she was younger as well. So he left this other girl with 6 credit cards that were up to like $50,000 worth of debt. He left her with a $120,000 BMW in her name. He had utility bills under her name. He had an apartment under her name. He left this poor girl in so much debt. I mean, both of them, to be honest. I think both of them had to go bankrupt. So these 2 girls reached out to me same day, right around the same time. I'm devastated. And at the same time, my 401k check had already cleared. So can you guys just imagine how screwed I was, how devastated I was? I really didn't know what to do. I couldn't even talk to anybody about it. Like, I had to take a few days to just figure things out in my head. I mean, I had already done a background check when I started dating him, and nothing came up, just a felony he had on his record, and he had already explained that to me. So he said that when he was around 18, his mom forced him to go into the dealership and get a car, and something, like, he didn't pay it, something happened, I don't know, and he ended up getting arrested, and he got a felony for that. But he blamed it all on his mom, and his mom kind of even backed him up. That's what's sad. Like, on one of our dates, he called his mom to talk to her about the felony, and his mom like went along with his lies. But you know, his family and his friends are involved in everything. It's kind of like a Ponzi scheme. It's out of a movie, you guys. I mean, one day soon he's gonna get caught, but what he's doing just can't go on forever. Like, he has literally been doing this for 10 years. It all started with his high school girlfriend. Her and her family took him in, and he completely screwed her financially. The family was devastated, and I mean, he's been doing this for 10 years. So anyways, my point is that I had done a regular background check on him, and only that felony came up. So when I did the criminal background check, I saw he lived at so many different addresses. He used so many different names. He had a few different social securities. He also had so many civil cases. He also had so many civil cases against him, and he's pretty much like a snake in the system. He knows that he can scam people. Most of the time, it'll only make it to a civil case, and that's as far as it goes. You know, if he doesn't show up to court, he doesn't show up. So he knows exactly what he's doing, and this is what he's been doing for 10 years, and he's been getting away with it, you guys. It's unbelievable. I don't know. It's really unbelievable. So in the end, when everything was all said and done, I talked to a few different people that had dealt with him, and I found out so much more information on him. The entire time I was with him, he had an extra cell phone, and I always saw a cell phone around the house, but he said that it was just like an extra phone that didn't work. So he had this extra phone all along, and he would either call or text himself, pretending to be his financial advisor, his lawyer, his cancer doctor, his employees at his gym. All along it was a lie. He had this extra phone, you guys, and every time he would show me someone's text coming in, it was all fake. It was all a lie. He was just pretending to be this person that he wasn't. It's crazy. And at the end of the day, you just like feel sorry for a person like this. They're crazy. Like, who has time to do that? Like, people need to really use their brain and get a real job. So after the girls reached out to me telling me he owed their families money, you know, I knew he owed me this money and I had to figure out how to get it out of him. So I did my best to stick around and play dumb. Lasted like a month or two. It was so hard, you guys, because all along I knew exactly who he was and I was finding out more and more things about him. It eventually got to a point where I just got so scared of him and who he was. Like, he was a sociopath, psychopath, and I realized this is dangerous. It's not worth it. I need to separate myself from him. It was becoming draining. It was so negative. He wasn't giving me back my money. Every week he had a different lie. Oh, my financial advisor is going to loan me the money. Every week he came up with a different lie on why he couldn't pay me the money. He had some sort of excuse. There was a holdup with his bank, or his account's frozen at the moment because of this, that. But he knew what he was doing all along. He was just trying to keep me there lingering, and he knew he wasn't going to pay me. So I kept asking and asking for the money, and the more I kept asking for the money and bothering him, he would get so upset and say, all I care about is the money. Like, what do I think? He's trying to scam me, that he's sick, and you know why? I don't even care that he's sick. And I knew at this point he was lying, but I was trying to go along with it. And he ended up, and as time went on, he started saying that he was getting more sick and that he was going to have to leave the country with his brother to get some sort of treatment, and he was going to be gone for a while, and that they were looking to book flights immediately. And he needed to do this to get better. So eventually, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I confronted him about everything, all his lies, his criminal record, the girls reaching out to me, just everything I knew about him. And he obviously denied things. He ended up confessing and saying that he spent my money. He said that he gave himself like he gives himself a spending budget every year, and that he had overspent, that he spent so much money gambling, his bills were too much, and that he was like supporting his family, so I guess he like just spent it. And he still kept bullshitting me, saying he was gonna pay me. Oh, I have this person that owes me money, or oh, I'm closing the sale on this house, and he just still kept trying to go with it. He wasn't paying me. He never paid me. So Zayshawn never paid me my IRA money. I haven't heard from him since last April. He left me with a $130,000 Range Rover. Luckily, I'm able to pay for the Range Rover and everything's good. I ended up getting rid of my BMW. I had to pay whatever I was upside down. That was like what was stressing me, is I had two cars because he never helped me get rid of my BMW. But everything worked out. Everything's good now. So Zayshawn Stanley Campbell, he's a criminal. He's a scammer. He's a con man. He's a sociopath, a psychopath. He targets vulnerable women. He's a broke fraud with major gambling problems. Zayshawn has no real money. He portrays this image of himself to get his victims. And I guess he pretends to be someone he really wishes he could have been in life. He will never be that man. He'll never be that man. His target is women that he dates. So it seems like he specifically targets like Latin women, usually young women, if not single moms. So the way it works with relationship scammers, you guys take note, is they'll move really fast in relationships, and they'll do everything they can to gain your trust and get you to believe they are who they are. They do that by like, in my case, he left like fake financial documents around the house. He was showing me fraudulent paperwork, bank statements, stock statements. His investment paperwork was false. He also bought me gifts as a way to show me he has money. He had these homes and these cars and just he did everything to prove his image. So after they gain your trust and get you to believe they are who they are, they'll try to get financially tied up with you, and that can be from getting involved like in a car sale with you, in an apartment, a cell phone account, a credit card. And although they'll try to act like they're helping you, all they're doing is gathering information on you. They might help you get a credit card, but the goal is to help you get like a high credit card so then they can screw you after. And what these scammers do is they'll use your identity. They'll open up, fake cell phone accounts. They'll use your credit. They'll use your social, your identity. I mean, when you're sleeping, they can get this information from you, your checking account info. It's so scary, you guys. Like, I never in my life thought that I would meet someone like this, and the fact that I did, it was traumatizing. So a lot of you ask me, like, how come you're not dating anyone? I did date someone, and I actually fell for the person, but the situation ended up being traumatizing for me, and I just needed some time to like regroup and get myself together because it really was traumatizing. And in the end, these relationship scammers will leave you emotionally screwed up and most of the time financially. I was fortunate enough, I had like Experian. He didn't really get to screw me in any other way aside from the investment. I'm very fortunate that I have certain people in my life that helped me get out of the situation, so I didn't really, get screwed and have to like face the consequences of all that. Thank you, God. But if I didn't have those people in my life to help me, I would have really been screwed. Like, I would have owed penalties on top of my retirement money, and it just would have been a whole mess, you guys. And I was in such a good place before I met him, you guys. I was trying to save money. I had like a future goal to get a condo for me in Ashton, and when he came in my life, he just caused so much damage that it just took a bit. It took a bit to recover from that. So last I heard, Zayshawn is currently living in like a $1.6 million house in Rancho Cucamonga Estates. He also has like a little penthouse apartment across the like Inglewood, I think it's the convention center. Him and his brother are looking to open up a gym. And he's also looking to open up a juice bar. And guess what, you guys? This is all under other people's like identity. So they're pretty much taking out $200,000 loans or so under other people's identity or their credit. I'm not really sure how it works, but that's how he's doing all this. Like, that's how he's gonna open up this juice bar. That's how he's opening up this gym. Zayshawn's clearly not sick with stage 4 cancer. He's posted videos on his Instagram working out. He's posted videos on hikes. He's living his best life. He just traveled to Europe. He's out hanging out with friends. Oh, he's also drinking, taking shots. He's out there living, you guys. He never had cancer. Everything was just a lie. So right now he has a girlfriend and is living, his life. And I have a criminal case against him. I really hope he's behind bars soon. This man's pure evil, and I feel so bad that he's out there still destroying women's lives. I really hope that there's some like justice in this. I hope he gets caught. So to answer everyone's question, no, he is not Wilson Jackson. His name's Zayshawn Stanley Campbell, and let's hope he gets caught soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is very personal, sensitive topic for me to talk about. It was a really traumatizing, hard time in my life, but I felt that I had to share it with you guys. I feel that I have to like build awareness. This is like the new common thing that these men are doing. Like, people are lazy nowadays. They don't want to work and get a real job. They're just out there trying to make that fast money, and they're ruthless. So we really have to be careful with who we let in our lives. Watch out for signs. Don't let people in too soon. Take your time getting to know people. Just be careful, you guys, because it's a really cold world out there. I feel like every woman out there needs to watch out for Zayshawn and men like this, and this is not coming from a bitter place. Women have to stick up for each other and be careful.